Hey girls, welcome to another episode of High Energy Girl, and today's guest is Courtney Bursich. Courtney is a wife, a mother of two beautiful girls, and she has too many animals to mention. Courtney is a Primal Health Coach and a wonderful encourager. So let's go and say hello. Welcome to High Energy Girl, a podcast helping women to age stronger, because it is never too late to get fit, be strong, and feel sexy. I'm your host, Tracy Gluheich, health coach and personal trainer, and founder of HighEnergyGirl.com. Each week, we will either have a guest interview, which will provide you an actionable tip to help you age stronger, or I will do a solo episode that we will have a fun challenge for the month. Please also join our Facebook group, High Energy Girls. Looking forward to seeing you on the inside. Hope you enjoy the show. Create Whole Body Wellness, a powerful new advancement in energy medicine. Increase your energy, empower your life. I am super excited to announce that I am now a bioenergetics practitioner. And many people are like, well, what is bioenergetics? So imagine that our body is controlled by our energy field, and these fields get distortions and blockages, which create physical and emotional symptoms. So how do we get energy blockages? From stress, toxins, EMFs, emotional traumas, physical scars, and physical traumas. All you need to do is decode the human body field to get to the root cause and restore your energy for life. For more information, head on over to the blog at highenergygirl.com/bioenergetics with an X. That's BIOENERGETIX, and heal your energy for life. Hey, Courtney, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks. I'm so excited to be here. I'm glad that I get to be a part of this.
Well, you are so adorable, and I can't wait to actually get to know you better and soak up some of your wisdom.
Oh, well, you're sweet. You'll be my best friend already just for saying that.
So for the listeners that don't know you yet, why don't you let us know a little bit about who Courtney Bursich is? Oh, by the way, are you Slav or married to one?
Oh, I'm married to one.
Okay,
yes.
me too.
It doesn't come from my background, but definitely my husband's background.
Yeah, I caught that name. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm married to one too. So that's funny.
That's so funny. I've never, nobody ever knows where that name comes from or how to pronounce it ever. So I'm totally impressed that, you got it.
Yeah, I'm surrounded by them, so it's all good. So, Courtney, what is your primary focus? Tell, what brought you to where you are now?
Yeah, so my progression in just the overall health space has really evolved over the last probably 4 or 5 years. I've always had an interest in nutrition and training and really a healthy lifestyle, but it wasn't until I had kids and really started experiencing a lot of physical and mental changes that surround pregnancy and post-pregnancy that I really was kind of catapulted into really understanding my body. I think that I was probably like everybody else. I wanted to be healthy because I wanted to look good. And if I looked good, then that made me feel good. But my frame of mind definitely changed after I had children, because now I'm responsible for keeping other little humans alive. And yeah. I also was experiencing just, a lot of emotional instability, and obviously the physical changes that go along with pregnancy and post-pregnancy, are pretty dramatic. And that can really mess with your psyche, and it can, your hormones are kind of up and down and all over the place. And that can make you feel a lot of things that you probably have never felt before and can make you feel insecure to a degree. So I kind of began this personal mission to educate myself on the nutrition aspect, but also how much lifestyle really plays such a critical role in the expression of our DNA and our genetics and how we feel. So that's kind of where it started. And then really in the past year, now that my kids have outgrown the super demanding years of infancy, and I've had a little bit more margin in my day. I went and got my Primal Health Coach Institute certification last year, and I've just been taking on clients and working with groups of people, and now I'm kind of doing stuff a little bit more on a broader scope where I can speak to multiple people, and podcasts are a great way to do that, and just communicating a lot of information that's out there. It's almost like just putting some context around it and helping people filter through all of the information that's out there. So it's been fun. The last year has been a huge year of growth for me personally, but I've enjoyed every step of it. So that's kind of what's led me up to today.
Awesome. And how old are your girls now?
So my oldest is 7, and my younger one just turned 5 last week. So they're a lot of fun right now. We're in a really good season. We can actually go out and do things, and you don't have the stress of wondering if you're going to survive the experience.
There's going to be meltdowns or not. That's funny. I miss those days. My boys are all old now. Like my youngest is 22, 23, and 25. So I miss the days when they were, just in those cute little ages. So
yeah. Oh.
So you said
I know it goes so fast.
Oh, it goes way too fast. So, but I'm lucky that my oldest, he lives in New York, and he still calls me every morning, and so I feel blessed that I have the relationship that I have with them. Yeah,
so, that's awesome.
So you said something I want to dive deeper into. So you talked about genes and go a little bit deeper in that, and how people, things that they can do so that they don't have to just think they, oh, my genes are stacked against me type thing.
Yeah, that really, isn't that, it's so true. That's really what we've been conditioned to think about our genes, that, our DNA is kind of written in stone before we're even born. And, those are the cards you're dealt. And if there's disease written on there, or there's, any type of physical struggle, or whether it's even weight or just body composition, it's like, well, that's just what I was given, and, that's the luck of the draw. But what we're really beginning to learn is that there are so many outside factors and variables that really determine the way that these genes are expressing themselves. There's a book right now that's out called Dirty Genes, and it's by Dr. Ben Lynch, and I've really enjoyed learning a little bit more about this. If anybody wants to get a little more in depth on it, that's definitely a great book to pick up. I'm sure you could get it on Amazon, but he really dives deep into the world of genetics, and how we have these genes, or genetic SNPs. So they're single nucleotide polymorphisms, I think is the official name. But these genetic SNPs are very common, but they give us these proclivities towards different behaviors, neurological responses, hormones, immune health, and certain lifestyle patterns impact when these genes are turned on or turned off. So they're not necessarily bad genes. It's just that there's a component of the gene that is stimulated in an adverse way by just like a normal lifestyle. So it could even be something that seems relatively normal, like a certain food group that isn't inherently bad, but it's just that it sends your DNA in a different direction, and that can work against you. So it's almost like knowing what, figuring out the blueprint of your body, and figuring out, what's going to work in your favor and what might be working against you. And I think that is exciting for a lot of reasons. Really, the biggest thing, though, is that we're not landlocked to what we're born with. We can adjust our lifestyle to bring out the best in our bodies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really am interested in that topic, because my parents, my dad's had cancer. I think he's on his 4th time. And my mom has Alzheimer's and Hashimoto's, depression. I mean, she's been on multiple medications for as long as I can remember. So that is really interesting. So when you were, When you work with clients, what kinds of things do you teach them so that they can fight against or not have those genes actually activate?
Right. So you don't have to go have like a full DNA panel done. Some of it can get a little overwhelming for people and they're like, oh gosh, now I need to know my genetic code and I have to eat my, fix my diet to align with, what my chromosomes are saying. So that's not necessarily true. But what I do love to do with my clients when I work with them is to really help them be this detective of their own bodies so that they can become very self-directed in how they manage their diet and lifestyle. So, for me just to like lump everybody into the same pool and say, okay, this is the whatever diet and this is what you can stick to achieve this body composition. Well, every single person is going to have a different outcome if I did that. So it's far better for me to take each individual person and say, okay, I want to help you figure out where it is that your body is struggling, because you might be doing things that you don't realize that it's harder for your body than it would be for somebody else's. And so by looking at these 4 different areas, so we're talking about nutrition, we're talking about exercise, sleep, and stress management. And those kind of encompass all these different pillars or cornerstones of our health. And so if we can evaluate all of those, because you can't ever isolate one area. They work in synergy together. So if we just hyper focus on nutrition, which is oftentimes the case for a lot of people because they think, okay, I want my body weight to change. I want my body to look different. So it's the nutrition piece. They may exercise and, they know that exercise is just a small part of the equation, but we hyper focus on the nutrition and we are leaving out so much of these patterns of life that will contribute to how our body uses the food that we're consuming for energy. What is our metabolic capacity? Are we damaging our metabolic ability or flexibility by hyper restricting our calories or over exercising or undersleeping? So I like to walk people through this foundation of what their body is having to manage. They're not just managing calories. They're managing stress load, cognitive load, toxic burden, and then, obviously things like sleep and really a lot of self-care. We do need to go above and beyond to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. And sometimes that's just getting outside in some fresh air. And you don't need to go for a run, just get outside and just relax and breathe, get some, actual sunshine on your body. Those things have, and carry so much weight in terms of our overall health. So I like to kind of give people a little bit of, exposure and almost like helping them identify, because we just don't think of these areas as being factors to our health. So it's fun to really see how people progress and just small shifts. I don't ever want to turn the tables on anybody's entire lifestyle and say, oh, well, this all has to go. You need to be a new person. That's not realistic and it's not sustainable for most people. So I want them to be able to make those shifts and then really start to feel the benefit. And I feel like that is what creates lasting change, because that motivates people to continue doing it, to continue, to make better choices for their health because they're experiencing those benefits firsthand.
Right. And then they become committed to the change and the new healthy habits rather than just being compliant to something that they're not really wanting to do.
Yeah, exactly. And I always, I think that, just as a culture, it's always like we're fighting our bodies. Like everybody, you grow up as a kid and that's when you get to have fun and eat whatever you want and you don't have a care in the world. And then all of a sudden you become an adult and it's like managing your health is a battle. And it's like you are in opposition of your body and you're fighting aging and you're fighting weight gain and you're fighting disease. And I hate that's really the way that we view health and our bodies, whether we would even define it as that. I don't necessarily think people would put those words to it, but that's kind of really how we we think. Like that's just the pattern of the aging process, at least in this country, the way that we, encapsulate health. And I want people to work with their bodies. I want people to appreciate their body along, the aging process. And that, your hormones are going to change. And just like seasons of life when you're younger and then you go into adolescence and adulthood, you don't relive the same season twice. So you have to be okay with this, evolution or process of growth, through the years, and knowing that, hey, my body right now, it's not going to be this way a year from now. And so it's going to take a different approach to maintain my health. So it's not about just arriving and checking all the boxes and thinking, yes, I am 15% body fat and I fit into my skinny jeans and I've arrived, because 6 months from that point, you're probably having anxiety thinking, oh, I got to maintain it now. Like now I've got even more work. And then on top of that, your body probably has different needs. And it might be a season where it is overburdened and you may need to just back off the gym a little bit and take more time for rest, because your body, it is aging and getting older and it needs more of a break. You can't just run full throttle indefinitely and expect the same outcome year after year. So I've totally got down a rabbit trail with that one, but
no, but it's true. I mean, that's a real story that people, tell themselves. I mean, it's one thing to get to a particular weight, and then it's a completely another thing to stay there.
Yeah, and it's so funny too, because I mean, I've been there so many times and I'm like, oh, I'm going to get up. I'm going to grind it out in the gym. I've got all my meal prep done. And then sometimes I just ask myself, like, what are you trying to accomplish exactly? Because if you wake up, after 5 days of, trying to get it all perfect and get all my ducks in a row so I can feel like I gave it 110%. But then I wake up on a Saturday morning and I'm super bloated and just kind of tired, and now my body's like really burned out because I just pushed through my daily agenda. Like, am I disappointed because I did all the right things, or am I still okay with myself despite how I feel? It's such a mind game, and that is such a big part of the struggle. I notice now having worked with several clients, it's not even about telling people, hey, eat whole real foods, because we all know that. And that is a good thing to focus on. But conditioning the mind is a lot harder, because we slide back into these patterns of thinking that our joy and our self-appreciation or self-love almost comes from checking all the boxes, from getting to where we think our bodies should be, or the capacity at which they can exercise or fit into certain clothes that we want to wear, or a bathing suit. And, detaching the joy, having that joy when your body may not feel or look its best, and still having that confidence in knowing that you're doing the right things to create healthy patterns in your life so that your body feels its best and that it is truly healthy.
Yeah, that's very, very true. So what would be your top 3 tips that you would tell somebody to develop that mindset?
I think that the first one is just be okay with living in the middle, in the gray area, because and I know this because this is exactly how my brain operates. I'm very black or white. So if, I feel like I'm doing something right, then I'm good, I'm confident, I'm happy. But if I feel like, it's not right, we attach this morality to food a lot of times, like, oh, it's good or it's bad. So it's like, if we eat all the good food, then we allow ourselves to, experience peace and joy. And then if we eat anything bad, then we carry this guilt and shame and like, oh, I failed. But life happens in that middle area. And if you're going to live on those extremes, then know that your mental state is going to be attached to every decision that you're making. And it's not fun. And you will miss out on so many great life experiences that way. And like I said, I'm preaching to myself when I say that, because I am very much a black or white person. But what I have learned, and I'm still learning, is that life does happen in the gray area. And honestly, that's where our bodies want to be. If we're looking at balance, we can manage the load of all of these nutritional burdens or toxins, or just, overall, everything we're experiencing that makes up our day to day. Our body just wants to find that middle ground. So it doesn't need to live in the extremes. So I would say that first and foremost, just wrapping your head around, it's not fitting your body into a certain mold of a nutrition pattern or diet. It's about finding what's best for you and being able to be okay with that, and being okay with, things not always being so clearly defined all the time.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense, because I think that's what we do. We get so dogmatic about things.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes.
I've never heard that advice. I like that. Just be okay with the gray area. That's really cool. So what about self-care? I know you have your 4-prong approach. I kind of want to touch on each one, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go to self-care. So what are some of your favorite forms of self-care?
Okay, so self-care, this is the one area that I feel like for every woman, it is the first, like, on the chopping block. Like, when we have a million things that we're juggling, self-care is the first one to go, because it's like, well, we got to get the kids to school, and we have to make dinner, and I have a job, and, all of these other things. And then, like, taking a bath, with some Epsom salts and some essential oils, like, that doesn't have to happen. And most of the time, the time we get there to, like, taking a bath, at least for me, I'm like, oh man, it's so late. Like, I'm just going to get in bed. So I've now waited, I've gone past the threshold of being able to wind down, and I've just crashed and burned, and now I'm just going to sleep. So yeah, self-care is so important for balance. And this is what really manages that stress response. So most people live in their sympathetic nervous system. So it's the fight or flight mechanism in your body that's really saying, okay, we have something we're up against. We have some kind of stressor, and we need to, call on all the troops, the cortisol, to come help manage that. And that's a good thing. The cortisol response is not bad. It's just that this modern lifestyle we're living, we have really one stressor after another. So we have this cortisol that's just kind of staying peaked or elevated all the time. And so we have this crash and burn effect where we really just wake up and we hit the ground running, and then we go 110 miles an hour until we're about to pass out. And then, we don't sleep as well, and we don't eat as well. And so that just kind of exacerbates or perpetuates this constant stress mode in our bodies. So really taking time, and this could be as simple as just doing some slow breathing techniques. So I have mentioned this to a lot of clients, that have jobs, and they have young families, and they've got all these, responsibilities, and they're like, I don't have time, Courtney. I don't, at the end of the day, like, I'm just lucky if I can get dinner on the table and pack lunches and do homework. And I said, well, great. You sit in the car though for, 30 or 45 minutes driving, everybody all over the place. Why don't you try doing 2 to 3 minutes of just some deep breathing? And you'll be amazed at how effective this actually is, because you can feel your body make that shift from that really tense, like your shoulders are kind of up, and you probably don't even know it. But when you start thinking about it, you're like, wow, my body is like really clenched up and stressed, even if it's not stress that you would, technically think about. It's not like you've got a deadline or something like that. It's just the busyness, and that alone drives stress in the body. So, really taking deep breaths, like filling your belly, like you should almost see your belly like extend outwards, and then kind of hold your breath for a few seconds, and then really whoosh that air out. And so that's just such a simple practice. I mean, we're all in the car, driving all over the place. And I try to do it 1 or 2 times a day, really just, bringing that body back into balance. And if you can do that, I'd be interested to hear, how people feel afterwards, but you almost get this like tingling sensation. Like you can feel that shift of, okay, my body's in that rest and digest mode. Like it releases these endorphins and these hormones that signal to the body, hey, we can take a breath. We can relax. It's okay. And that is so healthy. It's a very simple practice, but very easy to incorporate when you've already got so many things that, you're probably managing as it is.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to do that even before a meal, just to center yourself. And that way, what happens is you can be more mindful and eat slower and have a better experience all in all. So
absolutely. And that helps digestion, in saying and doing that before a meal. I mean, that will promote and stimulate good, digestion. And that's another, really key component. If you could be eating a lot of great foods, but if you're super stressed out, your digestion is probably pretty poor. You probably have some inflammation. And that's going to really work against you in terms of keeping your immune system up and also being able to utilize a lot of those nutrients. Like they can't really go to work for you if they can't be absorbed. So making sure that you're managing your stress, that your body is, not having caffeine late in the day, because again, that's just going to stimulate more cortisol. We want our cortisol to kind of taper down towards the end of the day so that our melatonin can start to rise and we can transition into that rest period.
Yeah, that's really good wisdom. It's so funny because, I heard a saying that said you can go, 3 weeks without food, 3 days without water, but only 3 minutes without breath. And yet we don't even think about it.
That is a really good picture. But it is. We really don't. And it is funny when you start thinking about your breathing, you realize how shallow you breathe normally. And like, I'll even notice like my shoulders are kind of like tensed up. My whole body posture, it says like stress. And then when you start breathing deeper, everything kind of starts to settle and relax. You're like, wow, that really does, give me a good sense of how I'm living most of the hours of my day.
I know, right? And so many of us are that way, and I think it's important. So it's funny because I just started, I just finished my yoga certification training yesterday, thank God.
Yay! That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to I've always been like a hardcore, like push, boot camp, weightlifting, so that now that I'm getting older and I want to kind of, mix things up a little bit more,
Yes.
So,
I love yoga.
But it's all about the breathing, and just that's like the whole purpose of yoga is just, mindfulness and mind-body connection. So
I know it. And that it is true. I mean, and sometimes for most people, it takes them actually getting into like a yoga studio in a room. And it's funny when I'm sure you've witnessed so many people, you can tell the ones that are super type A because it takes them half the class just to like wind down and actually get into that breathing technique because we're just so wound tight. It's like we have to work at it.
Oh yeah. Even some of the instructors in my class, like they are just total like push, like 3 hours of cardio a day type people. And even just their classes that they were teaching were just like, they just wanted to continue that like boot camp style yoga,
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. So, okay, so let's go. We have 2 more to talk about. So do you want to go with the food or the fitness first?
Yeah, so we can do the food. And the nutrition part is so simple because it really just comes down to eating real foods. And I always like to tell people, if you can't envision it growing or walking on the earth or swimming in the ocean, then it's probably not a truly real food. It maybe had some component of a real food at some point, but it went through a whole lot of processing to get to where it is on the shelf or in a box. So, it's really about, resetting the way that you're looking at the food, because let's be honest, everybody knows that, real foods are the way to go. That's what's good. That's what our bodies are intended for. But they're just not as appealing as a lot of the other options that are out there. So you have to work on that mind component and realizing that food is nourishment first and foremost. That is what is fueling our bodies. And it's what's, helping us manage all of the things that we task our bodies with on a day-to-day basis. So if we're not giving it the right resources, then we can't be surprised when things are breaking down, when we can't detoxify properly, or our hormones start to kind of go all wonky and sideways, or we start developing food sensitivities or allergies or any type of other autoimmune disease because, our insides are inflamed, chronically inflamed, and it starts throwing everything, out of balance. And then you start chasing all of these symptoms, with prescription medications. And that really just, sets this downhill spiral of events that lead to so many health problems, and people live with it. And I just think, oh, we don't have to live this way. We just need to really evaluate what it is that we're placing the priority on. Is it, well, I'm going to eat the vegetables because I want to be thin, or I'm going to eat the vegetables because it's going to keep my, gut flora in balance, and it's going to give me good fuel and antioxidants and phytonutrients and all of these little micronutrients that, my body needs for all the critical parts that keep it running optimally. And when you really can just commit to eating those things, you start to see the benefit. And that's what I really lead with. I know it's not going to be easy at first. And I know that you'll have, cravings, and you're going to wish you could just cheat and have these other meals. But if you can stick with it long enough to start seeing how your body responds in such a positive way, then the thought of having, these processed packaged foods or sugar-based foods, it's a lot less appealing. Yeah. So, it is, I oversimplify it by saying that, it's just a matter of eating real foods, but that's where the mind component really comes in, because you have to be committed to the health of your body. And we disconnect the health from the nutrition piece all the time because we don't see a cause and effect. We don't eat a piece of cake and then all of a sudden we're miserably ill or have celiac disease. It happens over time. So it's not like we're associating this one time we're having a candy bar, but we do it every day. And that's the problem. It's not just one time. So really, really understanding that your body really needs, and it expects, nutrition to work. Otherwise it is going to break down.
And, with that said, I think there's two things. Number one is, as far as the processed foods, with the nutritional labeling and with just the faulty advertising, people are convinced that it's healthy for them and they don't know. They don't realize, it will say, oh, heart healthy, on Cheerios, right? So there needs to be some regulation with that, because I think that a lot of people just don't get it.
I know. And it really frustrates me because you do see all of this labeling that's out there and people think that they're doing the right thing. I mean, even in like a CVS or a drugstore, I'm blown away at all the different products that claim that they're healthy. And then you can turn the package or the bottle over and look at the list of ingredients, and most of those ingredients are very harmful to the body. They're toxins and they're chemicals and they're synthetic, and they interfere or override the natural processes of our bodies. And people are buying them thinking that they're taking them as a health supplement, that they're increasing or improving their health by taking this. And, that's where you really have to know, and really be your own advocate. Like, you've got to be responsible and look at those labels, because, not every company is slapping, outlandish claims on their bottle, but, they may be broad scoping the health, or health factor or benefit of it. And then there's a lot of other little things that are hidden in there that are working, far more against you than they are helping you. So It is a lot of awareness, and I don't ever want people to feel like that's a burden, that it's like, oh gosh, grocery shopping, it's such a pain because I never know what to buy. I just say, stick to the perimeter of the store for the most part. I mean, if you can buy good quality meats and fruits and vegetables, and even some dairy products, if you can find some. I mean, I just picked up some raw aged cheese this morning, and from grass-fed cows, and incorporating, you can make some really tasty meals, and utilizing a lot of spices and herbs. And they're very savory. And I do not spend all day in the kitchen either. I mean, I got my crock pot going right now. So, yeah, I mean, it's very doable. It's not like you have to be a chef. I mean, I pick up things in the vegetable section. I challenge people a lot, and I'll say, just the next time you're in the produce section, pick something up that you might not even know what the name of it is. Just find something that's organic, preferably, and just buy it, and then go home and get on Google or Pinterest or whatever, and just try to figure out what to do with it. But you'd be surprised at how creative you can become, and you don't, need to be prepping all day long, but you're just increasing the diversity of those micronutrients that you're having access, that your body has access to. And I think it keeps it fun. And again, it's providing your body with something outside of what you're normally getting.
Mm-hmm. And that's a really good idea. I used to do that. What is it, like when they deliver a vegetable box and there'd be things in there that I never used. And so it was really fun to realize, oh, wow, a turnip is really good.
I know it. Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
That's a really good idea. I like that. Go to the grocery store and find something you've never eaten and buy it, and come home and find something to do with it. Because I do believe that people do develop food sensitivities by eating the same foods over and over and over and over.
Right. And we kind of, just because a lot of our restaurants too, we're kind of used to like the safe things. Like we'll do some broccoli, do some sweet potatoes, but yeah, like the rutabagas and the turnips and the parsnips, and some people are like, I don't know what to do with that. I don't even know what those are. But they're great. They're vegetables, and they all have a different level of nutrient profile that are great. So, just commit to one thing, and if you don't like it, that's okay. Try something else. I mean, there's just such an assortment. And then, you add in the seasonality. So I always try to just find whatever's coming in season, because again, it's probably more local, hasn't been plucked in Brazil and been on a plane or a truck or whatever, for 2 weeks. So finding something that's more local, it's probably less expensive if it's in season and you can find it, from an organic farm. It's a fun way to just experiment. And if you have kids, I think it's a great way to teach them too, because I do not want my kids growing up and like not knowing what vegetables are, because they never were exposed to them. I'm like, even if you don't like them, that's okay, but you need to know what beets are. Like, I can't have you growing up as an adult and you're like, I have no idea what a beet is.
Yeah, right. I mean, especially beets are so good for you and they're so delicious. So
right. With
that said, so you're paleo, I'm assuming, yeah?
Yes. Paleo, kind of keto, more low carb-ish. But yeah, definitely somewhere in that sphere.
So do you do dairy yourself? Because you just said you bought some cheese, and I know that a lot of paleo people don't do cheese. But I know keto does oftentimes. So do you just are you a hybrid model there?
Yeah. I went dairy-free for a long time, and I probably fell a little bit prey to the whole stigma of just all dairy is bad. But I've done a lot of research and reading about dairy, and really, honestly, most of the pasteurized products, like all the milk products, I would never do that. But I have found some farms that do some, raw-based products. Now, in most states, you can't buy that legally at a grocery store. You can buy raw milk or raw kefir and those things. for pet consumption from a lot of local farms. But I've incorporated a lot of raw-based products in my diet, as well as ghee. I do cook with a lot of clarified butter, and that doesn't have, the lactose or the casein in it. And it's a really good source of butyrate. It's great for immune health. So yeah, dairy is always, when I say everything's in the gray area, that's definitely a gray area. For some people, if you have estrogen dominance, you're dealing with PCOS or something like that, staying away from dairy because it is more estrogenic is probably in your best interest. Or if, you're somebody that's had breast cancer, or even for a male prostate or testicular cancer, dairy is probably something you want to stay away from. But there's been a lot of studies that have shown that even children that are having small doses of raw milk or colostrum from cows, that they have a 50% better tolerance of foods and a lesser sensitivity to seasonal allergies. So we're seeing a lot of good immune response in children and in adults. And, so I think that there's a lot of benefit, but I think figuring out what your tolerance is, that's kind of really the fine line. Do you need dairy every day? Probably not. If you want to have it a couple times a month or once or twice a week, and your body tolerates that well, and you have good detoxification processes in your body so that you can detoxify and metabolize, any of those extra estrogens, then yeah, I think it would be perfectly acceptable. But I would absolutely focus on quality, not buying conventional cheese or really just pasteurized milk on the shelf. Like, that is never going to be good in any way, shape, or form. So, some of the cultured products are a great place to start, yogurts and things like that you could buy at the grocery store. But definitely make sure you're looking for added sugar or fillers or binders. You really want to get something that's in its plain form and that's a higher fat. So you don't ever want to see like a low fat yogurt. The fat is really where the nutrition is.
Yeah. We are lucky. We have a dairy really close to us that does raw milk. So that's pretty cool. We live out in the country. It's kind of nice. But, okay, so if a person wants to buy raw milk cheese, what brands do you recommend?
So there's a couple of them. So I buy some of mine at Whole Foods, and they always seem like they're rotating. But what the verbiage that you're looking for it to be sold in a grocery store, it has to be aged over 60 days for it to be raw and legally sold. So you want to look for grass-fed and aged over 60 days and organic if possible. So you can actually buy goat's cheese, sheep's cheese, and dairy all in that aged form. And they make like there's a really good one that's a goat cheddar cheese, and it's at Whole Foods. I can't even remember the name of it off the top of my head now, but the next time you're at your grocery store, and you probably need to find like a natural grocer, most of the regular conventional grocery stores, you probably have a harder time finding like raw grass-fed cheeses, but there's such a variety. You can get a raw blue cheese even, and I picked one of those up, and it's, an unpasteurized blue cheese that's organic, and it's aged over that 60 days, or you do something like a sharp cheddar. So there's a lot of variety in there. And again, you don't have to go, out to a farm. If you're somebody that lives in an urban state, you can definitely find these products. You may just have to look at more of the specialized grocers to find a good variety.
Oh, okay. That's a good idea. I like the idea of a goat cheese because I just love that flavor so much with beets and walnuts. That is delicious.
Oh, I know. Now I'm getting hungry.
Okay, so let's move on now to fitness. What kind of fitness recommendations do you have? That's your fourth prong, right?
Yes. Yeah. So just like you, I do love the high intensity burst workouts. I think that a lot of people everybody finds kind of their thing. Whatever it is that will keep you coming back, that will keep your body moving and keep you active, then do that. If it's Pure Barre or yoga or spin or, a boot camp, high intensity workout or CrossFit, whatever it is that gets you excited, that you connect with, where you can find a community of people that are supportive of you, that will push you, and, that make it not a chore, that make it fun. Mm-hmm. That's where I would say, get committed to something. Like, just jump in with both feet and say, yeah, this is what it is that I do. And it doesn't have to be, that particular thing forever. I've done, kickboxing, and I've done high intensity, and I've done spin, and, it kind of just changes over time. But finding what it is that will keep you excited is really what's going to keep it a habit and make it a part of your lifestyle, and not just gotta get up, gotta sweat. And then, on the other hand, it's really knowing where to draw the line, because I think that we become so obsessed with, I didn't get to the gym, I didn't drive myself into the ground. Like, we think that we have to beat our bodies up every single day or 6 days a week for us to feel like our fitness is on point. And that's really not, that's not the point. And our bodies respond very well to passive exercise. So taking 1 or 2 days a week, if you're just tired and you're going to go through the motions, and it's just going to be, I'm going to be looking at the clock the whole time, just don't go. Just maybe take the time that you were going to be in the gym and go for a walk, or just put some music on and do some light stretching, or get a foam roller at your house and, use your foam roller. You're still moving your body, and, you're not looking at a computer screen. So it is good, and it has benefit to your physical health. But you certainly don't need to be, carried out on a stretcher every time you work out. Because I think that a lot of times we feel like if we didn't really grind it out super hard and we're not limping out of the gym, then we didn't do a good job. So, that is definitely a lot of women I feel like I work with. They overdo it. It's not even a matter of trying to get somebody in the gym. It's like, hey, give your body a chance to recover, because it just doesn't have ample time, between one workout and the next to really fully recover. And so you're in constant breakdown mode. You're never going to see growth if your body's just in a deficit all the time.
Oh yeah. And you know what? That's when the gains are made, is when you're resting.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's right.
So many times people don't see that, they don't realize that that's when you're going to make your gains, is when you're resting. So I noticed that, you look pretty strong. So how much weight training do you do a week?
I probably do 3 days of weight training, and then maybe a day of burst training, and then a day maybe where I'll do yoga. So every week is a little bit different, though. I will say, I used to be very regimented in, the times I would work out and what days I was training for strength and what days I was doing burst training. And now I have definitely become a little bit better at just listening to my body. And there have been several weeks, recently where I will set my alarm to get up, and I just, I'll actually get out of bed and I'll think I do not have it in me. And I will just turn my alarm off and get back in bed and know that, getting that extra hour of sleep is far better than me just getting dressed and then getting myself to the gym early and grinding it out, because I just know my body it's not there, and I'm going to do more damage than I'm going to do benefit. And I'll probably be extra tired by the afternoon, and, it'll be harder for me to eat well, because I'll be, coming from a place of being overly fatigued and overly taxed. So yeah, it's been, definitely a process in the last year, in terms of me really conditioning my mind to pay attention to my body. But I will say, if you can learn to do that, you'll realize really quickly that those couple extra days here and there where you're not going to the gym do not make a difference. Mm-hmm. It is not like, oh, well, you know what? Those 4 days I skipped of the gym last month, I can tell because I can feel it on my hips. Like that doesn't happen. I mean, my weight's about the same. I'm lifting a little bit heavier weights. So, those are times where it's like, that was a good idea because, at the end of the day, it didn't make a difference.
Yeah. And sometimes it's better for you. Like I work with a Chinese medicine doctor, and he is really into, when we are tired, like sometimes I go to bed and I pray. It's like, okay, I'm not going to set my alarm, Lord, but if you know that I need to work out, then you'll get me up. If not, you'll let me sleep.
Exactly. And man, what a beautiful place to be too. It's like, your body will be ready if it wakes up. And if it doesn't, then it's, it obviously needs the rest.
Yeah, totally. And I love that because I just figured like, if I'm not feeling up to snuff when I go to bed, then I just give it to him. And if he wants me to get to the gym, then I'm there. So
I'm going to try that. I like that. I'm going to go with that one for tomorrow. I'm going to see how that is. That is a really great idea. And I love the way that, you incorporate your faith. It's like, all right, Lord knows what I need. So
oftentimes more than I do. So that's a practice I do once in a while. So, okay, Courtney, where can people find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. I'm at organic_blondie. And then I'm also on Facebook. It's Courtney Bursich, health coach is my page. And then my website is organicblondielife.com. So you can find out information about working with me personally. If you're somebody that wants to do some personal coaching, I work with people all over the country and of all ages and backgrounds. So it's a lot of fun for me to get to do calls with different clients and really get a picture into their life. So if you're somebody that's interested in that, then definitely reach out. You can do that through my website, or you can just shoot me a DM on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, we will do that. And then I'm sure that people are going to love to hear your wisdom because you're just lovely. And I know that you lead by a wonderful example to everyone who's following you. So that's awesome.
Oh, well, thanks so much for saying that. That makes me feel good.
Well, thank you for coming on the show today.
Yeah, this has been great. Thank you for having me. And this is a fun conversation.
Well, you are a breath of fresh air and a lot of wisdom, so I appreciate you.
Yeah, well, great. Well, we'll have to do it again another time.
Okay, sounds good, sweetie. Have a super day. Thank you.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye. Okay, that was a fantastic conversation. I hope that you learned a lot and were inspired to realize that there are no one-size-fits-all programs. Okay, we are unique individuals with unique needs, and it's really awesome to go and find those and identify by hacking your body and trying out different things to see what makes you feel amazing. Thank you for listening. Please head on over to iTunes, give us a rating and review, and that's how more people can find the show. The goal is to take action every day. Take one action, one golden nugget that you can apply for your life. And I'm sure that you heard many on this show. All right, girls. So please go out and make it an amazing day. This podcast contains the opinion and thoughts of its host and guests. It is intended to provide helpful and informative material on the subjects covered. All statements made on the podcast have not been evaluated by the FDA and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. If the listener requires professional assistance or advice, please contact your personal medical doctor. Both host and guest specifically disclaim any responsibility for any liability, loss, or risk, personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence directly or indirectly of the use and application of any of the contents of these episodes. Like I said, this is my opinion and I could be wrong.